morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Women with Grit, where we interview dynamic women who all have one thing in common: grit. So come on in and grab your favorite drink and snack of choice, for we have another amazing and dynamic guest to bring to the stage to you this evening, Miss Desiree Robinson. And as you all can see, my partner in crime is not here tonight, but we send him love, we send him blessings, and we know that he is listening in, and also to these amazing women with grit. As you all know from the last time, we talked about just things that we're doing a little bit different this season, so you guys will continue to see that. But again, you guys can engage with him in the chat function as well as throughout the remainder of this season. But again, come on in the room, tell your friends, tell your associates that we are on. And as you all know, we love to engage with you all. So feel free to leave your city, state that you are joining in from in the chat function, so we can be sure to acknowledge you appropriately throughout this entire session. As you all know, we love to engage with you and engage with our guests. So if this is your first time joining us on Women with Grit, you can follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Exceptional Women with Grit. You can also find us on YouTube at www.youtube.com/the @ and Women with Grit. You can also find us on our website at www.womenwithgrit.com. Any forum that you will choose to use on social media, I'm certain you will find us at Women with Grit. So we invite you again in the room to embrace this amazing woman that we are going to bring to the stage even now. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to connect with Desiree Robinson. I'm telling you, as you guys know, if you've been following us, we bring a lot of amazing powerhouse women who are doing just some phenomenal things in their city and around the world. And Desiree is another powerhouse. So let me tell you a little bit about Desiree before I bring her to the stage. So communicate, motivate, and educate is the hallmark of Desiree Robinson. She is a veteran communicator with more than 30 years of experience in strategic communications, broadcast journalism, and public relations. Desiree earned a Bachelor's of Arts in Communications from Howard University and a Master's of Science in Health Communication from Boston University. During her career, Desiree has worked as an award-winning television and radio news anchor, reporter, and producer, a public speaker and professor of public speaking, and an award-winning strategic communications specialist. In 1998, Desiree left the television industry to pursue her goal of owning her own public relations firm, Robinson Communications, in Jackson, Mississippi. After Hurricane Katrina, she returned to her beloved hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, where she works as a special advisor in the public health arena. Communicate, motivate, educate is an integral part of Desiree's daily life. From her parents, a minister and a teacher, she inherited the art of leadership, public speaking, and serving others. In 2019, her real part-time job was serving as a CCMO, or a Chief College Management Officer. Desiree shuffled 3 high school seniors successfully through the college and scholarship application process debt-free. Can I say debt-free? Her experiences became the inspiration behind establishing her a college application and scholarship consultancy, IADW, which stands for It's a Different World, and it truly is. Desiree helps students and families avoid common mistakes to increase her college scholarship success potential and avoid burdensome debt. Her greatest achievement to date is being the mother of 3 brilliant, loving, and fascinating young adults. Desiree is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, as well as a member of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated. As an avid jazz lover, you can usually find Desiree at a concert, especially during the summer. At home, Desiree's kitchen is her therapy, as well as supporting the culinary arts through the organization Sister Cooks Incorporated. We welcome to the stage at this time Ms. Desiree Robinson. How are you, Desiree?
I am well and happy to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you on tonight. And again, Lee sends his wishes to you, especially for being able to avail your time to be on our podcast this afternoon, this evening.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So many questions and things came to mind, but the very first one that we always kick the show off with to get a look to know a little bit more about you is to tell us and tell our viewers a little bit more about you. So we'll start off with, what is your unique story of grit?
Wow. My unique story of grit is embedded in what you shared as a part of my bio, and that's why I have it. I have a minister as a father. He's in heaven now, but he's looking down, and I have a teacher as a mother. So, on both ends, we had to tend to the spirit, be it the educational spirit, your spiritual core and your center, which has grounded me. And when it comes to grit, I needed all of those skills to be able to get through some of the critical moments of my life. I think the one message that I would share that is most important is operating from a place of fearlessness. I am not by any means saying that you can't shake in your boots or your heels, whatever it is that you choose to wear. Uh, but when you're in those moments, approach those critical moments, those defining moments of life, approach it with fearlessness. There is enough negativity, particularly for women. We can talk our way in and out of opportunities, um, primarily because we are afraid. It's in those moments that you have to draw upon your inner core. And I am definitely a Christian. I do believe in God and I believe in Jesus. Without that foundation, I wouldn't have made it. But I had to trust and go with the fear, move through the fear. When you have that foundation and you can trust yourself and you trust what it is that you believe in, even though you're shaking, there will be a point and a moment where your spirit can be calmed and you will hear everything that you need to hear to be able to get through that moment. That is what I would say grit takes, is walking toward the fear, moving through that fear, and moving past the fear.
The fact that you said that, walking to the fear, walking through the fear, and away from the fear. Did I capture that correctly?
Walking to the fear, that which scares you the most is exactly where you need to be. Walking through it with the confidence that you will get to the other side of that fear when walking past the fear. That's where the destination is. The first thing is to actually get to it, walk to it. The second is walking through it. And the third is actually walking past it, getting past that fear, because that's where the success comes. That's where the victory comes. But not if you don't take that first step. You got to
Oh
walk
my,
to it.
absolutely. So I have a book called Making Leading with Feet, Making Intentional Steps to Live Out Your Best. So you're right in my vein right now. And I love it. I absolutely love it because that space of fear, to your point, can be so crippling and it holds us stagnant sometimes. Can you share with our guests, whether it be an example of how you've moved through fear, moved to, through, and then beyond fear, or where you have seen that demonstrated perhaps in the professional arena?
From a personal perspective, I will say coming home from Hurricane Katrina was a very defining moment for me, because literally that storm uprooted me. And at the time, I was married. I had a 3, 2, and a 1 year old, and my marriage was on life support. I was leaving it. And to come home and sit in your former bedroom that you left as a teen before going to college, wow, what a critical moment. What a defining moment, because you're coming back to your past and now you have to figure out your future. There were a couple of things that were critical during that particular time, and that was setting a goal that I would not remain in my parents' home. I said, I'm out of my mom and dad's house within 6 months. I did not know how I was going to do that because, again, I had at that time left my business as a public relations practitioner, an owner. Everything was going well. And then my children arrived, and I had to make a decision to be a mother or to continue as an entrepreneur. And that was painful to be able to leave that, but I also wanted motherhood. And there's one thing that I am going to say that I heard Cokie Roberts, the late journalist Cokie Roberts, say many moons ago. And this is pertaining to women. You can have it all, just not all at the same time. And if I could just drop that nugget, that will help you in the process to fear. That's one of the things that I had to realize in that moment. So there were periods of life where I was allowed to become a television anchor. That was great. That was one thing that I wanted to do. I approached that from a place of fearlessness. You know, left Washington, D.C. and landed in Biloxi, Mississippi. I wasn't afraid to go. Moving and walking in the direction of that which I feared. I don't know anybody in Mississippi, but God made a way. Get married in Mississippi. In my career, I got to start over. I got to become a mother. I didn't have family, didn't have anyone nearby, but I figured it out. I moved in the direction of the fear. I can do this. The defining moment for me was coming back home after all of that and having to start my life over again, like from scratch, from ground zero. And in that moment, there are a couple of things that happened. Number one, when I was definitely broken, my father said to me, "You're a Robinson. You're a Robinson." It's something about the role of a father and how fathers center and speak in the life from a standpoint of not only leadership, not to say that mothers can't, that's not what I'm implying, but there's a difference in how a father pours into a daughter. That's why all relationships are critical, mothers and fathers. But him letting me know, you are from me, that you know where you came from, you know what I put into you. You need to remember that. And once he centered me, I got my footing to step out into uncharted territory. You know, I have 3 children now that depend on me. So the one moment that was defining, after spending many years wanting to be a network television anchor and things of that nature, I started my life over in the temp pool at CNN my first day. So I'm walking in, and imagine this. This was always my college dream, right? My childhood dream. I'm going to be a television anchor at network. And I walk in CNN and I see all of the big monitors of all of the anchors, and I'm feeling, oh my God, I have failed. So I run to the bathroom, and tears are just flying, and I pass by someone at the sink. I didn't see her. When I came out of the stall and got myself together, I realized that the lady at the sink was actually homeless. She was taking a bath. And in that moment, I said, okay, God, I got you. This can be you, or you can pull yourself together and go in here and fold t-shirts in the Turner store and provide for your family. So I say all of that to say that sometimes things that we think may be a loss, maybe a deficit, maybe a failure. It's a defining moment of whether or not you're willing to walk towards the fear, walk through the fear, and walk past the fear. That job gave me the opportunity to get myself back together, which helped me land the position that I have been in for the past 16 years, that helped me support my family. The right place at the right time, we just have to stand in it. That takes grit.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And also humility, right? In the space to be able
Absolutely.
to, go in the bathroom. And it's almost like I would say, even a coming of oneself. And I think that I'm a woman of faith as well. And I just believe that sometimes God gives us moments to allow us to rely on him, and also to center us in such a way that we know that he's guiding us and guiding our hand and guiding our destiny. But thank you for sharing that. I think that that is so impactful and powerful, especially when we look at I might not be doing exactly what I think I should be doing right now, but I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in this moment, gaining
Absolutely.
what I need to. So thank you for sharing that. Oh my goodness. Desiree, okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about self limiting beliefs. And thank you for sharing that nugget. It's so interesting that you mentioned it because last week we had Tony Kelly on, and the week before we had Stephanie on. We had a couple of guests that are in the mental health space. And when I tell you that you're the third guest to actually give that same quote, you can have it all, just not at the same time. So that's probably the theme for season 5, which is just, it's good to hear that because sometimes we drive and we push so hard to try to get it all done, and we end up being stagnant because we're just like a top spinning in one spot. So thank
Correct.
you for sharing that. Okay, self-limiting beliefs. So when you think about your journey and you think about whether it be from the personal standpoint of things that you've overcome, what would you say has been a self-limiting belief that you've had to overcome, or one that you find that you might be even still working to overcome?
There were two that actually happened when I was in television. I remember one day a coworker telling me, yeah, the news director's best friend actually was another reporter, and he said to me, "You know, Bob started not to hire you because he thought your eyes were too big." So in my mind, what I ingested in my spirit was, I'm not pretty enough. Because in television, there was a certain look back in the day. We could wear natural hair. I love that we have evolved and sisters can actually be who it is that we are naturally, if that's what they choose to do. But back in the day, my mentors like, Desiree, your hair has to be straight. You have to look a certain way or what have you. So what was deposited in my spirit that day is that I was not pretty enough. And counter to that very statement would be the flowers that were coming to the television station, from guys who had a crush. I would meet women on the street. Honey, my husband rushes to the television screen because he has to see his favorite anchor with big eyes. I don't know why that wasn't enough for me. Because all I heard was, he wasn't going to hire you because your eyes were too big. Do you know my eyes were the main thing that everybody complimented me on? Why is it that as women, we ingest the one negative thing that someone says at the expense of every positive thing that was said? One other night, I was fortunate to have a co-anchor who was very supportive, and I was rushing, trying to get a deadline story done, and when you start out in the business, it's not pretty. Everybody thinks that because you're on television, everything is wonderful, and somebody does your makeup. No, you're doing your makeup, you're doing your hair. You had to edit. Sometimes I had to shoot my own story, so it's that. So on this particular night, I'm rushing, to get a story done at 10 o'clock news, and I'm panicking because things weren't working. I was trying to get stuff done, and my co-anchor, Gene, said to me, I said, he said, what's wrong? I said, everything's going wrong. I can't figure out it. And I'm trying to get this. He said, Desiree, you are the smartest person in here. And when I tell you those words came from across the newsroom to me, I never forgot that moment because he was centering me in that moment to focus in on my capability. You wouldn't be here. God would not have put you in the place that you are in if you were not meant for that moment. Okay. You have to really, as we raise daughters, I really want us to be intentional about making sure not only do we say, oh, you're so pretty, but you're smart, you're brilliant. I don't start with pretty all the time. I don't say you're beautiful. I say you are brilliant. And by the way, you're beautiful, because we need to be able to make sure that we are uplifting our young women to know that their value is not tied with a look. And had I understood that, it should not have mattered to me whether or not Bob was going to hire me for my big eyes or not, because I was brilliant enough to take the job. I was brilliant enough to be able to be hired for the job, and brilliant enough to win awards in that job, which I did. So, and there you have it with these big eyes.
And the one, I'm so glad you hit on that, because sometimes it's that thing that we're insecure about that is our, the thing that sets us apart. It's the thing that
Yes,
really, really
yes.
sets us apart. And you have beautiful eyes, and I love those frames. Let me tell you,
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
love those frames.
It took a moment to really accept and appreciate me. And we have to do that. And you'll hear me say sometimes we have to do that for girls because we really do. Girls are raised to be defined by how they look, their position, their ability to be able to attract. He talked about how I looked, but not about my value as a reporter. And I was bad now. Let's be clear. I was bad. And you got to know that because that one statement should not have crippled me to the point where I felt that I was not worthy enough, that I didn't advance in television because maybe I wasn't pretty enough. My eyes were too big. My eyes are perfect.
Exactly. And something, so on that topic of, call it the space of looks, and to your point, thankfully, I think society has evolved in such a way that that's the case. And one of the things I want to ask you is, when you look back at that moment and even who you've become now, what do you feel, or who do you feel were the defining moments that help you push past that to say, okay, yes, I may be uncomfortable in it, but I'm going to walk in my discomforts until I get to a place of comfort. Or maybe it was someone that you said, you talked a lot about those that were in your life that helped to center you. And I think that that's important too, is having the right people around us, and the right people championing your success in such a way that you lean into the positive words and the positive affirmations. But as you think back on it, what was that defining moment that says, okay, I am enough, even in the space of my eyes, to continue to push forward and continue to be all that I'm meant to be in this moment?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. And what I will say is what ideally should be said to younger women because it took a while to get here. I would say probably I didn't become completely comfortable with myself. Probably not until my 30s. Just really okay with how I am because being in raised as a preacher's kid, and also taking a job in television, it creates this bubble that you're in where what will they say if I do this? It's always constant scrutiny, the need to be perfect, the need to not have any flaws in anyone that could damage a reputation or things of that nature. So my early years were spent with that. I would call it a cloud because it was a cloud. It was a box, and it made it very challenging to really be my authentic self because there was a persona that I needed to maintain that aligned with the direction of the family that I grew up in. And the same thing with television. I couldn't go out and, act a fool. I had a reputation. So it was a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility that did not lend well to being able to have some autonomy as an individual. What does Desiree like? Whatever. It really didn't matter. It was, did it align with what it is that I had to do? Did it align with the life that I was living? So I would say probably what I would tell my younger self is trust your gut. Some people call it, your gut, your intuition. Actually, it's discernment because God gives it to all of us. If we are connected and you're plugged in that way, your gut is actually discernment. It's the spiritual place where right before something happens that you're not supposed to happen, everybody knows this feeling. You either hear it, it's a whisper, don't do that. Don't go down that street. Don't talk to that person. What they said is what they meant to hurt you. And we quiet that inner voice. every single time, a lot of times. But if we're really plugged in, we have to trust that that is spirit actually guiding us. You, and here's an example. How many times have we heard stories of people who said that they were supposed to be on a plane that crashed, but at
Mm.
the last minute, they made the decision to not go, or they were caught in traffic? How many times have we seen an accident down a road that you were supposed to go down, but you had a detour or somebody was slow in front of you, only for you to end up closer to the destination to see that there was an accident? That was a divine intervention,
That's right.
guiding your path to take you off of the path of distraction. So I say all of this to say, in terms of those defining moments, trusting your gut. Um, and in the Wizard of Oz, at the end, Glinda the Good Witch, she was Holy Spirit. What did she tell Dorothy? You have everything you need, my dear. You always had it in you, my dear. Okay, so you have to trust that the people in your. And then the third thing, I'm sorry, that I do want to offer is that you should have mentors that are in the space that you want to go. It's great to have friends who are, if they're at the same level that you're at, you can have one or two, but there should be some others that are in the space in place that you're trying to go. Because if that your circle defines you as well. There's a friend that's supposed to be in there that tells you the truth. If you don't have a friend that tells you the truth, you need to find that friend. Someone needs to say, no, that dress doesn't look good on you. They need to tell you that. No, that hairstyle doesn't look good on you. You need the friend that is the spiritual one that says, hey, let's go to the word. You need the one that will pick you up off the floor when you are unsure that you can go on. And you need the one that is in the place that you're trying to go. Those are the anchors that we all need in order to get to the next place or the next space in our lives. That's what I would say.
So much wisdom. So much wisdom. I mean, so rich. I hope you guys are coming in and tapping people because she is dropping some huge, huge gems tonight. My goodness. We're just about halfway through already, believe it or not. But before I pull you back and before we delve into the second part where we invite our guests to engage as well, and I hope you guys are working on your questions and putting them together. Desiree, I want to ask you as it relates to people that have inspired you along the way. You just got done talking about the mentors. When you think about your journey, who are those mentors, those cheerleaders? Who's a part of Desiree's tribe? And last, just so you, I preface this a little bit. Last segment, one of our guests talked about how even the people who are part of a tribe were not the traditional ones who would cheerlead, but those that actually kind of nudged her in such a way that made her feel uncomfortable, but pushed her outside of her comfort zone. So, as you think about those individuals that have inspired you along the way, or those people that are a part of your tribe, who would you say that those people are?
I would say foundationally, my mother and father. My father was the leader. My father led. He was the extroverted leader. He had to speak to people. He had to engage. My mother was the introverted leader. She could be. She's the introvert extrovert, but she leads quietly. She leads through service and service to others, because there are different ways to actually lead, not just telling people to do and guiding them or whatever, but you lead by serving. That's called servant leadership. Um, Foundationally, they gave me everything that I needed to be able to be successful. Caring for people, singing about people, carrying food to folks, ministering to people. That is a part of what it is that we are tasked to do here. We're supposed to leave this universe better through our work and our service. If you can't leave it better, just might as well leave. Um, Oprah Winfrey, when I talked about all of the friends that you need to have and the people that you have around them, sometimes I would tell my kids, I'm like, go Google the person who has the job or is doing whatever it is that you want to do in your future, and make them your mentor, not a they're the real life example mentor. You may not be able to speak to that person, but you follow them. And for me, in my early years, it was Oprah Winfrey. I followed how Oprah spoke. I worked on the cadence. I worked on, because I'm Southern. I had to temper my Southern accent. And Oprah. I would listen to her voice. I would mimic her voice because she was where I desired to be in terms of my ability. So sometimes a mentor can be someone that you don't necessarily know, but you are following their career, their trajectory. What did she do? She started in a smaller market. I started in a smaller market. And at one point in time, I even had, Oprah's hairstyle. But, it's totally up to you how much you want, because, imitation is the highest form of flattery. But Oprah was my unofficial mentor. And as you evolve and grow, your mentors will also change based upon your goals. So once I left television, I had PR mentors. Years ago in Atlanta, there was Roy Communications. And I remember The Office. I remember walking in, the sisters, Charlotte Roy. Had her own PR firm here. And I remember walking in going, this is the way I would want my office to look like. When I started my PR firm, I called 3 PR firms in Atlanta, told them what I was going to do. And they said, because that was the step out on faith. I need someone that can guide me in a smaller area. I'm building. 2 of them said, hey, good luck to you. We don't have any support. The third person, it was actually Porter Novelli. They said, hey, not only can we help, but we have a job opportunity for you. That's a very interesting story. But that's how I was offered a position, just by picking up the phone and calling. So your mentors don't always have to look like you too. You should have some that can understand your journey, but you should also have others that don't look like you. So I have had mentors that are male, that are not in the same race. And now in this portion of my life, I have a mentor who inspired me, Janai Thornton, for Thank Me Later Money. She is a celebrity financial expert. She is the one that inspired me to start It's a Different World, because she saw the work that I was doing. So your mentors are people who see the possibility in you. They don't have to look like you, but if they are where it is that you want to go, and they are willing to take the time to deposit into you, that's who you align yourself with.
That is so powerful. And the space of just being able to know and identify them, regardless of whether or not, to your point, whether or not you know them, but you can understand the space of what you're aiming to mimic. So, believe it or not, we're past halfway point. I want to make sure that you get a moment to grab some water. And before I bring you back up, I would like to leave you with a question that I'll bring when we come back. I would like for you to answer. So, with you being a communications expert, and especially in the space of PR, what are 2 ways that our guests can improve their communication skills to better advocate for themselves or better advocate for their beliefs? So I will ask you that question as soon as I bring you back up from the break. But thank you so much, Desiree.
Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, what an amazing, amazing gem, with so many stories that Desiree has already shared within the first half. If you are just tuning in, listen, you want to be sure. You want to be sure to go back and listen to this from the very beginning, because Desiree has dropped so many things on the space of fearlessness, and even on the space of being centered and having those around you that help to keep you centered, being able to walk and step into the faith. And she even touched on the space of how important fathers are when it comes to speaking into their children's lives and centering them. Okay. I mean, so many gems of wisdom. So if you're tuning in, you are tuned into Women with Grit. We are here tonight talking with Desiree Robinson. Again, Lee sends his well wishes. As you guys know, we're doing something a little bit different this season. But in the meantime, you guys are tuned in to Women with Grit. Be sure to follow us on Facebook as well as YouTube. Engage with us on LinkedIn as well. You can all find us on any and all of those channels at Women with Grit. So Facebook.com/ Women with Exceptional Women with Grit, excuse me. On YouTube, it is youtube.com/ the @ symbol and Women with Grit. On any one of the forums, you can find us on Women with Grit. And if you know of a woman with grit that you believe should be on this stage, be sure to reach out to us on any one of our forums, and a member of our team will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, now as you guys know, as we move into the second segment, you have an opportunity to ask Desiree questions. So feel free to leave your questions in the chat function so that we can properly bring them up on stage. And if you haven't taken the time to say hello to us, be sure to do so we can properly acknowledge you. So just a couple. Okay, to Beatty, thank you for joining in all the way from New York. Thank you for taking the time to join in. Brenda, thank you for joining in from Florida as well. Laurinette, it is good to see you again on Women with Grit. And those of you who are also joining in, feel free, don't be shy to definitely grace the stage and say hello to us and say hello to Desiree. All right, so I want to make sure that I bring this amazing powerhouse back up to the stage. Miss Desiree, as you guys have heard from the first half, some of the key nuggets she talked about was really making sure that you are, when it comes to walking through your defining moments, that you want to walk towards fear, walk through fear, and past fear. That was a very powerful one. Be sure to get that when you circle back on the podcast. And then she also talked about the space of validating women, even beyond their looks, and looking at what's on the inside and giving them the space to actually talk to the confidence and re-encouraging them to have the boldness to walk in that. She talked about when it comes to defining moments, to trust your gut, and trusting your gut, you absolutely must. So those are just a couple of nuggets that Desiree gave. As you guys know, at the end of this segment, I will do a full recap of some of the key points that Desiree left. But not to belabor the point, I'm going to bring her back on stage so we can delve a little bit further and talk about the space of not only communications, but we'll talk about the college acceptance, process. I know some of you guys have students that are either on their way to college or on their way through college, and would love to learn some insightful information about that as well. So welcome back to the stage, Desiree. Thank you so much for, again, gracing the stage. So prior to the break, I wanted to ask you a question about ways that our guests can improve their communication skills, whether it be while they're advocating for themselves or for things that they believe in.
Well, this is a wonderful question, and one that I certainly challenged my students as a professor of public speaking. 3 points minimum, no more than 5. If you are walking into a scenario where you are tasked to provide communications, you want to be able to make sure that you have minimum 3 points, no more than 5. It's best to stick with 3 if you can, because with the 3, you need to have supporting subpoints. Okay, make your case. Let's say it's for a job interview. What are the 3 primary reasons why you're a good person for this job? If you are presenting an issue or a problem of concern, what are the 3 points that you want people to walk away from? If you go to 5, it's totally okay, but you need to have subpoints, at least 2 subpoints for each of the main points that you identify. The other thing is planting yourself firmly. There's a posture that we have with speaking. Sometimes some people will do the tent hands. You don't want to do that. And even though it is very difficult, you want to keep your hands to the side and you want to make contact with the audience. One of the things that I taught my students initially is one thing that one speaker does. You want to be able to work the room and make direct contact. Yeah, what I'm actually doing right now is simulating that I'm looking at a room of folks. Everyone in there, if you as a speaker make eye contact with the folks in the audience, it centers them and it lets them know that that you are present and you see them. A lot of times we talk at people. I want you to always talk to people. Meet people where they are in terms of the conversation. Okay. You want to be able to study your audience, research the audience. If you're going in there and you need to make a case, and let's say, for instance, you're a Democrat and you're going into a Republican audience, you got to know what the opposing view, what resonates with them. And you want to make sure that you are key with how you want people to feel, not necessarily what you want them to think. But I approach everything from a public speaking perspective. When you leave my speech, how do I want that person to feel? Because it's a different emotion now. That's why I go to feeling, because people will be able to connect with the feeling. Most people think, okay, this is how I want them to think. No, I want them to walk away with a particular feeling, because they leave there because you have impacted them on a different level. It's one thing to impact them mentally, but if you can tap into the heart, they remember those key points, and it helps them to remember if there are only three, primarily the rule of threes. Just remember that.
Very, very powerful and so impactful, because the more options that we have, the more we confuse people, I think.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so when it comes to core attributes that you think are effective and essential for women to be effective in their roles and in their life, what do you feel are core attributes that women need to be successful and effective?
I'm a stickler for being prepared. You got to do your research. I want you to walk in knowing the opposing side to every argument. Okay. Unfortunately, particularly being a woman of color, you have to be over prepared. The old school will tell you, you got to be 10 times, better. You got to be 10 times, I don't think those rules have changed. Not for us. So when you come in, I want you prepared to shine. I want you to show up with a sense of readiness, even when you're nervous. They used to say, never let them see you sweat. I still feel that way. But it's okay to show up.
I agree.
And
Yes, very much.
particularly for us,
Hmm.
as women, if you're shaking or whatever, unfortunately, the view is that you lose power. And I know that's not necessarily how people want to see it, but we do. And I'm a stickler a little bit for the old school in terms of your dress. I don't need them looking at anything but you. So anything that you can do to de-emphasize and make the focus, I need you to stay right here with me. I need you to pay attention to me. I think that helps, and that's something that we women have to navigate. And I am all for embracing and owning your sexiness, but there is a place and a time for that in a business setting. uh, Sometimes we do need to tone it down, unless that's your angle and that's your hook. No harm, no shade, but I don't want you to lead with that, because I need for people to be able to respect your business acumen. And that's not tied to your bust, that's not tied to your butt, and that's not tied to your legs. That's tied to your knowledge, your ability to pivot. Another thing that I do need to offer to everyone too in a public speaking scenario is practice, practice, and more practice. Practice in the mirror, practice with people who will tell you the truth about your delivery. Make sure you do it in front of an audience, and we have to be open to the critique. Okay, so that's why you make sure that you have trusted people, and particularly those who you admire in their skills and abilities to be able to deliver. So think of those things. I want you to be prepared. I want your, being a professor of public speaking, your presentation, how you present, how you speak, how you say things, that can make or break you. Okay, so those public speaking skills have to be refined. You have to spend the time in doing it. There's sometimes that you have to alter your voice. Some people may have a very high pitched voice, it's very hard to hear. Some people may have to, especially in communications, like I said, I had to work with my Southern accent. I had to make sure that how I spoke my accent was not identifiable. That's just a part of that business. You don't necessarily have to do that, but those are some considerations. And recording yourself. making sure now that we have phones, back in the day, you have to use, a camera, but now you have a phone. Record yourself. Watch the number of ums and ahs. I call it the pregnant pause. Okay. Instead of saying, which is a natural go to, it's better to just pause. That's what I just did, instead of using those crutches when you speak. And don't be afraid to have notes. If you do PowerPoint, make sure you're not reading everything on the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is really just background, it's color. Okay. And what you want to do is make sure that you have, the rule of thumb used to be no more than 5 or 10 words per bullet. Okay. Because people read ahead of you. So if you have everything that you're saying on there, there's no need for people to pay attention to you. So don't let the PowerPoint overpower you in those settings. So those are just some tips that can help you be very effective, and making sure you're not pacing and wiggling and moving too much, or what have you. So just stay with your audience and make good eye contact.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And that's one of the things for me that I have to be mindful of is I talk with my hands, and I can get a
Me
bit
too.
busy with my hands. So sometimes I sit on them, and my indications sometimes I have a mentor, and he definitely made me conscious of. He said, "Sherelle, I know you do that because you're passionate." He says, but and I was in a different country. He said, over here we just see that as aggression. So you may want to
Right.
bring
That's
that
right.
in. Yeah, just a
Yeah.
little bit. But to your point, the practicing and being in front of the mirror, I think, helps us to identify those things. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to. And having the right people, coaches such as yourself in the
Yeah.
room that can help you hone your skill and also continue to carve that particular skill set that you have. Okay, so I want to make sure that we touch a little bit about it's a different world. So, what was the concept? What was the thought behind doing a different world? Like, walk us through that season of life where you've got 3 seniors, they're all looking for scholarships, and how you managed to get every single one of them through school debt free.
Absolutely. So it started organically, with just the thought, I am not going to be paying for college for these babies now. I love you. I will not be in debt. I
Yeah.
deserve my retirement. It evolved primarily out of a basic need that I did not want my children to have the burden. Because it did impact my marriage. It was like shackles, because my ex-husband had college debt. He had student loans. I didn't have student loans, and so I didn't know what all of that was about. So it it impacts the ability for people to actually have, particularly communities of color, to pass on generational wealth, because we are saddled with generational debt. So I started early, just collecting information about scholarships. Anytime I saw anything, I just held onto it, printed it, put it in a folder, saved it on a folder, in email folder. So when we got to the point, and actually I started sophomore year working with my kids. Fortunately for my children, they actually had passion about particular areas. So I was intentional each year, making sure that they were in free programs that supported that particular passion. For instance, my daughter was interested in sports medicine, so I had her in summer programs in sports medicine. My son is a television and film major, so he was with community organization, Vox Teen Communications. If you have a teen in the Atlanta area interested in journalism, photography, videography, the whole 9 yards, excellent program. So he was with them since freshman year of high school. And my youngest was interested in computers, in gaming, in software development. So I had her in specialized programs in that particular area. So from there, I went into, what I called, a college vision board. I believe in vision boards, write the vision, make it plain. So they did that. They didn't understand what I was doing. I can't tell you that I understood what I was doing at the time. All I know is whoever it is that you say you want to be, find the person that's in that role, put them on your vision board. Find the universities that support that particular major, put that on the board. So we started doing the work. So it became a thing. What ended up happening with my oldest two, I became more so of an expert in outside scholarships. Merit-based scholarships are the ones that are typically provided by, universities based upon, the FAFSA that you do in order for college admissions. But the outside scholarships are those community-based scholarships where there's a huge pool of money, be it civic, Greek organizations, public and private nonprofits that offer outside scholarships. So I have been successful in making sure that all three of my children received either through merit scholarships through the universities that they attend, or outside scholarships that help filling critical gaps such as housing. Like some schools might offer a full ride in terms of tuition, but they don't cover housing. That's where your outside scholarships come in. So what I do with IADW, unfortunately, I have two other instructors that are partners that have been with me. One is my childhood friend. One was actually my son's former coach. All three of us have three kids. Candace Pritchett Mitchell, she is a beauty queen and a football player. That's right. She exists. She's done both. Her
Wow.
three students came in through the athletic route. Coach Gary Woolfolk, he was my son's coach in the community basketball league. He has three sons who all received merit scholarships. And my three, I'm the outside scholarship person. So my children receive scholarships from Greek letter organizations, nonprofit organizations, some tied to the work that they did and their interests. So it is possible. It took a lot of work. I'm not going to lie, but you can actually do it. And we have to do that, particularly as African Americans, find resources, and they are out there, but it's become more competitive. And that's why we wanted to do the consultancy to be able to help families understand and navigate because it is truly a different world.
And I think that that is so powerful, especially as we're looking at the changes and the lay of the land over the next couple of years from the standpoint of education and what that looks like for funding resources. So that is so impactful. Desiree, so what are a couple of nuggets as we're winding down to be thinking about? I'm going to come back to you on the nuggets that you would like to share and leave our guests. I want to ask this question actually on behalf of Lee, which is when it comes to men supporting women in industry or in life, what do you feel is the role that men play?
Wow. I think there are a couple of roles, but primarily, and particularly for our men supporting our women, sometimes in certain scenarios, we need our brothers to serve in a support role for the advancement of women. And some will say, well, women have had more of an opportunity than men. But if you are in a leadership capacity, serving as a mentor to a female and it could be a male dominated field, particularly in those, we need for you to be loud advocates for our ascension within those environments. In certain environments, we need for you to co-sign uh, the research and the data or the thoughts or the ideas that we have in meetings where a lot of times our opinions may not be respected. We need you to be loud advocates for us, for the opportunities. We need for you to see the possibilities in us and lay that foundation, because I think as Black women, we have certainly done that for our families, for our men, for our communities. So when given the opportunity to do so, and without the expectation of anything in return, just because that's a good thing to do, I think of men like Maynard Jackson, who was Atlanta's first Black mayor, and a lot of critical African American male leaders within so many industries that are directly responsible for making sure, just even in listening to the history of Essence Magazine, which was founded by three Black men. Didn't realize that until this history was uncovered, because they saw a need and a gap within our community to be able to empower our sisters. Now, how beautiful of a legacy is that? That three Black men came together to make sure that Black women were empowered. That type of movement is what we still need, even in the music industry, making sure that our sisters are not exploited, making sure that Me Too doesn't have to exist because you see the merit of a woman's skills and abilities with no expectation of anything in return. Creating pockets and spaces where women can feel safe. I believe that every female child deserves an opportunity to grow up, and male too. But since the question is focused on women, I believe every female child deserves to grow up in a world where the men around her make her feel protected and respected. That builds a stronger woman to raise your children and to serve your community. If we can keep that dynamic going, and if we had, um, just imagine where we would be.
That is so powerful. If you and your belief is that every woman or female deserves to grow up in a space where she is protected by the men that is surrounding her. That is powerful. Oh my goodness. Well, we're winding down on time, Desiree, but I want to make sure you have an opportunity to share any last thoughts or nuggets with our guests, as well as be able to leave your information for how they can connect with you further, whether it's your Instagram, social media pages, etc., or if you desire to leave your contact information for how they can learn more to engage with you in IADW.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Well, certainly connect with us on through our website, iadw.online. Happy to have you. Happy to host workshops and seminars within the community to support families who need information about how to get their students through the college application process. And embedded in that, too, we do offer workshops on public speaking, interviewing skills, because that's been most critical for a lot of the scholarships that my children earned. They had to get through the interview process. And unfortunately, that's not a skill because, a lot of us cut our teeth in the church during Easter Sunday. Black History Month at school, you had to hone those public speaking skills. And we don't have a lot of those training grounds anymore. That's not what we experience. So we need to make sure that they know how to look a person in the eye, how to communicate strongly and definitively and clearly. But one thing that I would say when it comes to the journey, from a career standpoint, there will be ebbs and flows. There will be times to reap, and there are going to be times to sow. That's biblical. That's word. I think the one thing that I could say with the ebbs and the flows, the enduring quality would be whether or not you are willing to ride the wave. If there's one bit of advice that I could give myself, it truly is trusting the process. But show up prepared and ready all day, because what never fails, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So just stay ready and trust your gut, trust your intuition, trust the spirit that is whispering in your ear, and know that your preparation will meet the opportunity, and you need to rise to the occasion, walk to the fear, walk through the fear, and walk past the fear, because there will be rich rewards on the back end. I think those are my final thoughts.
Ooh, Goosebumps. I mean, just so amazing. It has just been so dynamic to have you on, Desiree. I mean, such
No, it's been my pleasure.
a pillar of wisdom. I mean, you all, if you are just tuning in, I'm telling you, you have to go back and listen to this from the very beginning and really, really walk through the journey as well. Desiree, how can our guests, so give us that website one more time. I want to make sure that I leave it here in the chat function for them.
Yes, iadw.online. On social, let me see. Oh my gosh, I know I should do a better job on social, but you can find me there. Typically, my handle is Desiree PR Pro for public relations professional, Desiree PR Pro. That's on the personal side, but definitely iadw.online. And there are a lot of resources there. We have a resources page too to connect you to resources that would be useful for you, that all you have to do is download. Some are free and some are just low cost. So hopefully that would be a great service to you and your family.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Desiree, on behalf of both Lee and I. We thank you for gracing the stage of Women with Grit and sharing your story. So, I'm going to do a quick recap and then we will close out for the night. I mean, oh my goodness, what an amazing, amazing gem. Miss Desiree Robinson, you guys again are tuned into Women with Grit. I'm going to give you just a couple of the nuggets that Desiree mentioned, but again, go back and listen to it from the very beginning. If you know of anyone who needs this information, please don't hoard it. Please share it, right? She talked about the space of operating and approaching critical moments in life with an air of fearlessness, right? Drawing upon your inner core during those critical moments of life so that you can dig deep and move, not move to the fear, through the fear, and past the fear as well. You also, she mentioned again, echoing the fact that you can have it all, but just not all at the same time, right? So give yourself space, time, as well as the ability to work on what's important and be present in the respective moment. Delegate and automate where necessary so that you can continue to still have that space of balance. She talked about how fathers center and speak life into their daughters. So every single relationship is critical to the well-being of your daughters as well as yourself, and really defining that voice and knowing how the father or that father figure in your life has stepped into or spoken into your life. She talked about the space and the example she gave of humility, right? We might not always find ourselves where we expect to be in that respective moment, but we are exactly where we need to be. So lean into those experiences and also take on that air of humility so that you can learn whatever the lesson is that this specific moment came to teach you. She talked about the space of being comfortable validating women not only in how they look, but what they possess from the inside. And also being able to speak to the confidence that they have as they begin to walk into the room and cultivating that air of growth beyond just the outer exterior that a woman possesses. Trust your gut and trust your discernment. She talked about the space of knowing that, what's inside of you is enough, and also being able to lean into that. She talked about, especially during those defining moments of life, to listen to that gut instinct. Listen to that whim that may say, okay, be patient today. Maybe I don't need to rush to get to my next destination. Maybe this car that's moving slowly in front of me is actually saving me and saving my life. So trust your gut and trust those moments. Have mentors in your life that also are comfortable creating a space for you, and also have those that embody something that you are looking or seeking to grow into. So if you have in the example of her, she's a reporter, and she talked about the space of mimicking and looking at Oprah Winfrey to harness her skill and begin to delve into that as well. Your circle, she talked about, defines you. So also ask yourself, who is in your tribe? And who do you consider a mentor that you can also look up to? When it came to ways that guests can improve their communication skills, she gave a plethora of nuggets. So be sure to go back and look at them. These are just a couple of them. She talked about make sure that you have a minimum of 3 points, but no more than 5, with supporting sub points for each one of those points. Work the room and make direct eye contact with the audience. And this specifically actions and creates a center around people so that they know and feel and sense your energy and your engagement. Be comfortable meeting people where they are. Study the audience. Know the viewpoints of those that you are going to speak with. Know the keys that the key issues that they have, and also be comfortable and comfortable actually being able to speak to them. Be prepared. She talked about the space of being prepared wherever you are, and never let them see you sweat. When it comes to speaking, practice makes perfect. So be comfortable standing in front of the mirror, or actually being able to pull someone in to help you identify the areas that you have opportunity. Be open to receiving criticism and constructive criticism so that you can continue to carve your path. Find the inspiration for where you want to go and put it on your vision board, right? Being able, whether it's a specific role or a specific way to be, find the inspiration and grab it and put it on your board. When it came to the role of men, she talked about the space that men can be mentors, right? Being able to see the possibilities, being comfortable standing with a woman and standing for that woman, and also being in a space where she can operate under your, or feeling protected, if you will. She talked about every female deserves to grow up in a place where she feels protected. There will be ebbs and flows, but be willing to ride the wave. Trust the process, but show up and be prepared. She talked about, in spite of it all, be willing to trust your gut, trust the spirit, and be prepared when the opportunity meets, when preparation meets opportunity. And I want to leave one question with you when it comes to the space of operating in your authentic self. Ask yourself, when was the last time that you fully gave yourself permission to trust your gut, to walk in the fullness of who you are? Man, what a dynamic time it has been. Thank you so much, Desiree, for taking the time to grace the stage of Women with Grit.
It's been an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And to our guests, we will see you next week at the same time in the same location, right here, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another amazing Woman with Grit. But until then, have an exceptional night. Take care. Bye.
Good night.